Okay, so I'll describe what it looks like. So essentially, it's a sculpture outside of a building.
The Sands Casino in Singapore.
Oh, okay.
In front of the museum.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
This was right before COVID, November through January.
Amazing.
This year.
So it's a photo taken from afar. You have the sky taking up to the top third of the image. You've got a building, which I guess is the museum on the right, and emerging from the bottom of the photograph up into the right is a sculpture of a whale. It's a fantastic. Who's the artist who did this?
Jason Klimovsky, Studio KCA from New York.
Okay.
So they were commissioned to do this piece by the city of Bruges in Europe. It's a 12-meter tall whale. Mm-hmm. It's made from large plastic pieces from the North Pacific Gyre, which is where we had gone on our original expedition 12 years ago to really create the first science expedition to talk about plastic pollution.
Wow.
We did that with Scripps Oceanography. So this whale weighs actually 12 tons. It's shipped in two 40-foot containers in 16 giant puzzle pieces. But as you can see, there's probably 2,000 pieces of plastic on it. But each of them is in a grid, and you have to put it back together every time you move it. So I got introduced to Jason because we were writing a UN report on global commitments for plastic pollution. And the UN had come to us and said, the commitments that the world makes are great, but we don't actually believe they're working.
Right.
People don't follow through. There's no transparency. They maybe don't have funding. The plans change. And we said, okay, we will do this. So we scored 580 global commitments on plastic pollution, and we now have the first scorecard to evaluate the value of those commitments, whether they're happening, replicatable, scalable. And so I can go back to that because that is a big new program we're working on now. But for the whale, my colleague in New York said, oh, I found this whale image from the internet, from this sculpture in Bruges, and I contacted the artist. He's here in New York, and I happened to be in New York for a meeting.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, let's go meet him, because we'd love to use the image on the front page or cover of the report. Mm-hmm. And so we did that. I met him, great guy. And then I started thinking about, wow, I used to do outdoor events in Hong Kong and Asia and outdoor media. I can bring this whale to Asia. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so I contacted him. There was no plan at all for moving the whale on a European or world tour at all. Mm-hmm. The city of Bruges simply put it in their canal and had hundreds of thousands of people take pictures of it, and it was amazing. But they didn't plan to move it. So I contacted him, and we created a program for the skyscraper tour of Asia, and I named it Have We Breached the Limit? Mm-hmm. Because as you see, the whale is in the shape, he's breaching out of the water. Mm-hmm. And it really gets people thinking about what's going on. Why is there a whale? Why is it made of plastic? We had the Prime Minister of Singapore took a selfie with this whale. Every single person who passed it took a photo. So we had plans to take him to Sydney next to the Opera House. We had Shanghai in front of the Museum of Natural History. We were going to take him to the Olympics in Tokyo. Wow. And it's just an amazing way to carry a conversation without bashing people on the head. And unfortunately, COVID came and that all got wiped out.
Well, I mean, delayed. I'd say delayed. Let's not say wiped out. So if you're looking at the image, and since we're the podcast, but the sculpture, so essentially it's a photo of a sculpture. And the sculpture is what's really arresting. And the photograph itself is just like a record. But this is one of those images that at first you look, you think you get it, and then when you just look a little closer, it really resonates. Like it just hits you because they're obviously, or at first you don't quite register what it's made out of. And then when you look, you see like fans. It's made of like plastic fans, plastic trays, it's very sobering, and I can see what it must be like to stand underneath it.
So what we did is we created a puzzle. So on the signage below at the base, it says, "Can you find me?" And we picked 8 pieces of the objects somewhere embedded in the whale.
Wow.
And it was
Very
a description of what that was.
Very
and
smart.
then the kids and the parents had to walk around the whale and try to find that item.
And burn it in their heads. Wow.
It was really amazing.
That's really good.
Yeah, it was great. So it really, it allowed you to have workshops and school talks and all kinds of things.
And conversations.
So, conversations.
Yeah, well, from my work in terms of consciousness raising, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, but it's like, I kind of feel that the heavy lifting of activism really is in a conversation. Like it starts with one-to-one, exchanges where people say, well, what do you know about this? And people say, I don't know, whatever. I think I know whatever. And then slowly start opening their perspective. And,
right.
And so
in many ways, it's you're the guy at the top of the hill pushing the snowball over the hill. And the snowball then picks up speed. It gets bigger. People jump on it and take the ride. And we're the ones, pushing that snowball over the hill all the time. And this is one example of that.
It's so powerful. Okay, next image. So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.